Today I want to speak about the Wisconsin elections. By the time you see this, it'll probably be almost a week since that election. Seems like a long time ago. But the reality is there were significant forces in play that came to the forefront, not only in Wisconsin, but are evolving in California, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, all across the country. And a lot of people don't understand why the unions were so adamant against the governor and wanted him recalled. Obviously, they didn't like the budget cuts, but there's a fundamental change that took place there that was echoed the latter part of the week in two jurisdictions in California. The problem is this, and there was a wonderful article in the New York Times, which I will make the web link available to you at the end of this blog. But basically what it was talking about an interview with Michael Bloomberg, who is the mayor of the city of New York. And he was talking about how the current assumptions under the public employees pension plan is 8.25%. That means that in order to fund the benefits to the state employees and the city employees of the state of New York, and the city of New York City, police, fire, teachers, the assumed rate of return on these portfolios is 8.25%. As you can well imagine, they haven't hit that for a long time. The actuaries who provide advice, not investment advice, but statistical advice, have suggested on more than one occasion that the assumed rate of return was too high and it needs to be brought down. Now it's 8.25 currently, and the most recent recommendation was to drop it to 7.25. I find that interesting because the return for the portfolio in 2011 was 5.25, or clearly 200 basis points short of the new 7.25 target. Why is that so controversial? Well, a lot of people don't understand that the assumed rate of return for a pension fund that has a defined benefit structure, which is what the public employee pensions are, if you change the assumed rate of return, you change the amount of money that the employer must contribute on behalf of the plan. So right now at 8.25%, the mayor says that over 10% of the budget of the city of New York goes to fund teacher pensions, police, fire, and city employees. 10% of the budget. $1.10 goes to fund retirement and health care benefits for public employees. If you reduce the rate of return, the assumed rate of return, from 8.25 to 7.25, then the amount of the budget that the city of New York would have to spend on retirement and health care benefits for the retiring employees would jump to almost 15%. So that means 15 cents of every dollar that is brought into the city of New York goes to pay benefits for retired workers. Now you could understand why the unions wouldn't want this to be known, because the idea that you're spending 15% of taxpayer money to fund the retirement programs and healthcare programs for public sector employees, when they, as private sector employees, are paying for their own 401k and paying a substantial portion of their medical benefits, would not go down well. So that the unions are opposed to reducing the assumed rate of return, but it's another example of kicking the can down the road, because if you continue to hold at 8.25% and you continue to underperform, at some point in time, you're going to run out of money. Now, San Diego and Santa Clara, California, realize that that's a problem, and so they passed a ballot initiative to reduce the amount of pension benefits that future retirees are going to get. So it's important to understand that if you change the assumed rate of return, more of the taxpayers' dollars are going to be used to fund public sector pensions and post-retirement health care. And the unions don't want that to happen. They would rather kick the can down the road. There's one other little dirty secret that I think most people don't understand or even have any clue about. And that's the makeup of the boards of these pension funds. In the private sector, the Securities and Exchange Commission have said that there have to be more independent outside directors on a board than there are company executives on the board. It protects the shareholders' interest. In the case of the public employees' retirement systems, what you will find if you look up the makeup of the board, these typically run between 7 and 9 member boards, with the majority of the members on the board, meaning the voting majority, being union members. And so you have a situation where the union is not going to vote against itself, so they continue to put up the roadblocks about changing the assumed rates of return. I don't know that Wisconsin necessarily broke the unions, but I hope that Wisconsin is beginning to show more and more Americans just how expensive the post-retirement and healthcare retirement for public sector employees is compared to what they're doing. So it's going to be a very interesting summer as more and more legislatures and more voters begin to understand the ramifications. And watch President Obama. Watch him as he speaks during the summer and into the fall. If you saw his address at the Honeywell plant, he was talking about jobs. And he was talking not about private sector jobs, but he was talking about Congress passing his jobs bill to hire more teachers, more police, and more firemen. He did nothing to address the 8% unemployment rate in the public sector, in the private sector. So the only jobs that the government can create are government jobs, and he's on a mission to try and create more jobs, hire more teachers, hire more policemen, hire more firemen. Other state, city, and county governments are going a different direction and say, as they did in Wisconsin, we just can't afford these kinds of benefits and we can't afford this many employees. Difficult, hard decisions. Nobody wants to make them. But in Wisconsin, they started the process of making the decisions. That's it for now. This is Dan Perkins. If you have questions, please feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Or if you have somebody who's looking for help, give them my name. Thanks.